Ever since this channel's inception, its goal has been to chart the lore of the Super Smash Bros. Series, or at least the multiverse that it implies. Up to this point, we have covered every single game that I would deem relevant to the original Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64, allowing us to finally have the full context for each of the characters in the game. If you missed it, I put out a 9-hour collection of all of those videos, though I wouldn't expect you guys to have watched every single one of those before this one. But if I mention a game and you don't know what's going on, I probably have a video about it, with the exception of the game shown on screen now, which I have not yet covered but will still spoil. Also, before we continue, here's your quick reminder to like the video and subscribe to the channel if this is the kind of content that you want to see more of. Now, before we get into the story of Smash 64 itself, let's take a step back and talk about the wider universe that the series takes place in. Now, the Smash Bros. Series doesn't go out of its way to lay anything out, so a lot of this is just the belief that I subscribe to, which is highly conjectural and theory-based. I'll do my best to provide the evidence, but your mileage may vary as to how much you want to agree with me. But respectful disagreement is always welcome in the comments and Discord server if you want to have a conversation about it. In my experience, most people describe the world of Smash Bros. As some kind of imaginary realm, whether it be the mind of a child playing with toys, or the taboo, childish fantasies of an adult. This seems to be the most common reading that I've come across. However, there are enough through lines between the stories of the various Smash games that I think we can in fact treat the world of Smash Bros. As its own material universe, separate from the others we've discussed so far, but still with its own consistent rules and themes. Palutena's guidance mentions that Mario is Pit's first ally in facing off against the Subspace Invasion, a reference that also exists in Smash Ultimate. Also, in the Ultimate Fighters mural, Pokémon Trainer can be seen attacking Wario, likely also related to their roles in the Subspace Emissary. World of Light also seems to be a follow-up to the story told in Subspace Emissary, with Gleam appearing in the same break in reality where the Isle of the Ancients once stood. Between all of these threads, I think we can work out that the Smash Bros. Universe is, in fact, some form of material universe with a story that we can follow. It's worth noting that, as this channel is designed around Super Smash Bros., we will unfortunately have to deal with some inconsistencies. Obviously, not every series that's in Smash Bros. Was designed with that lore in mind. Hence why I'm trying not to focus too much on Super Smash Bros. Outside of the main episodes on the series. For videos like this, I'm simply choosing the narrative that makes the most sense to me from the evidence provided. Now that we've established the status of the world, we need to talk about the fighters. First off, the fighters that we face are not the versions of the characters that we see from their own games. They seem instead to be recreations. This can be seen from Odin, Laszlo, and Selena's conversations with the Lucina amiibo in Fire Emblem Fates. This is a version of Lucina who is mentioned taking part in the Super Smash Bros. Tournaments. During the events of that game, she has a chance to meet with 3 of her old friends, including her cousin. However, upon fighting her, all 3 realize this was not the same version of Lucina that they knew from the past. This establishes not only a delineation between the 2 fighters and their canon selves, but also a connection between the fighters and the amiibo statues. This connection shouldn't actually be very surprising, as the fighter trophies have been taking on the same pose as their amiibo ever since Smash 4. Establishing the fighters as some form of toy also ties them back to the original Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo 64, where the fighters were more something along the lines of dolls. They still have the personalities and histories of their counterparts from their home franchises, but are explicitly different beings. That then brings us to a question. If these are not the original characters, then where do these recreations come from? Well, I think the game actually makes this kind of clear. There is one character who appears in every Super Smash Bros. Game, who not only seems to have some connection to the world, but also in every game shares a voice actor with the game's narrator. This character is, of course, Master Hand. Now, exactly what Master Hand is isn't clear. However, as seen by the loyalty Ganondorf, Bowser, and Wario seem to have for him in the Subspace Emissary, he seems to hold some kind of power over the fighters. Smash Dojo refers to him as the master of our world, which could put him in some kind of godlike power. I would also be remiss to not at least mention Crazy Hand. Although he did not appear in Smash 64, he seems to be the left-handed mirror to Master Hand. Where one is order, the other is chaos. One creates and the other destroys. In later games of the series, the two will become almost inseparable, and exploring their relationship is definitely something I want to do more of. I think this is a great time, however, to point out that we actually do see Master and Crazy Hand appear in a non-Smash Bros. Game. In Kirby the Amazing Mirror, both hands serve as the boss of Candy Constellation. The game never explains their appearance, but they have definitely connected to the world of Smash, as consuming them grants Kirby the special Smash copy ability, allowing them to use their moveset from Melee. This was also the second to last Kirby game to have Masahiro Sakurai on staff, where he served as a special advisor. Due to Sakurai's involvement in the game, I can only assume that their use is intentional, and lines up with how they're portrayed in the Smash Bros. Series. My interpretation of this, and it's not my interpretation mind you, but one I've heard from others and accepted, is that the hands are present not to serve the whims of Darkmind, but instead on a reconnaissance mission, to get more data on the world of Kirby. And that, I think, gives us the very basics of Smash Bros., and finally gets us to the point where we can talk about the first game in the series. At this point, I'm going to split up the video into a couple of different sections where we talk about all the different series that are represented in the game. You can find timecodes for each of them down in the description. Now, this is a Nintendo game, so we really should start off with fighter number 1, Mario. For those of you who don't know who Mario is, he is a blue-collar worker of various trades, though often associated with plumbers. He became the consummate hero of the fantastical Mushroom Kingdom. His characterization is generally that of a chipper, 25-year-old man who just wants the best for everyone. It's weird that Mario's younger than me. His moveset is mostly based on Super Mario 64, including a number of punches and kicks, which are actually somewhat used in his home series. The only move to not really follow this trend is his neutral special, where Mario can use fireballs, even without an obvious fire flower. This continues over from Super Mario RPG, where he has a similar ability. His taunt features a Super Mushroom, growing Mario to a larger size for a limited time, as it did in Super Mario 64. However, based on Mario having quote-unquote normal proportions, he likely is not meant to be in a small Mario form. Mario has 4 alternate colors, each of which has their own inspiration. The yellow one is based on Wario, featuring the anti-Mario's classic color scheme. This brown Mario is based on Foreman Spike, the villain of Wrecking Crew. This inverted color scheme Mario is rather interesting, as this was actually how Mario was originally intended to look. As early as Donkey Kong, Mario actually had red overalls and a blue shirt. These colors would remain the most used ones through a lot of Mario's early years, though eventually the blue overalls design would take center stage, leaving these old colors to be mere trivia. The final color scheme is green, and seems to be based on his design from the Japanese Wrecking Crew box art. However, unlike the others, this color scheme is not listed with a source on the original Japanese website, so it is possible that this isn't intentional. Alongside him, Luigi has come along to represent the Mushroom Kingdom. He's Mario's cowardly yet well-meaning younger twin brother. His appearance seems to be fairly stock standard for Luigi since the Bros colors were standardized. His moveset is fairly similar to Mario, but it's worth mentioning that, unlike his brother, this is Luigi's first time being shown to use fireballs without the aid of a fire flower, though he would be shown to have that ability in later games. His alternate colors are as such. The green and white costume matches Luigi's color scheme in the original Super Mario Bros. His next color doesn't have a source listed on the website. Smash Wiki suggests that it's based on Mario's color scheme from the original Mario Bros., but I haven't found any art that actually matches that. If anybody finds that art, let me know. Also, this costume is not labeled as Blue Hat Luigi, like Mario's blue costume is, but instead Water Hat. I'm not sure what that means, but I find it to be interesting. His final costume also has a weird name, being called Strawberry Luigi on the website, and I just think that's neat. Alongside its 2 heroes, the Mario universe comes with not 1, but 2 stages. The first of these is Peach's Castle, a stage that takes place floating in the air above Peach's Castle from Mario 64. I can't help but notice that a bumper item is in the upper left portion of the map. While a cool addition for the sake of gameplay, I have to wonder why it's even there, especially given that the bumper is not a Super Mario item. Mushroom Kingdom is the only unlockable stage in the entire game, and appears similar to the worlds from the original Super Mario Bros. The stage's Japanese name is Ancient Kingdom, referencing its outdated 8-bit aesthetic. This level doesn't seem to match up with any particular level from that game, since it has features from a number of different levels. There's also a few items that have their sources in the Mario series. The first of these is the hammer, based on the hammer from Donkey Kong. The Fire Flower, green and red shells, and Bob-omb are all recurring elements of the Mario games that, at this point, I don't think I have to explain. The red shell's homing capability seems to be based on its execution in the Mario Kart series. The Fire Flower is notable because it doesn't really resemble its use in the mainline Mario games. Usually there, the flower allows its user to shoot fireballs, but this one instead creates a constant stream of fire until it runs out. Donkey Kong III is the latest in a long line of Donkey Kongs, protectors of DK Isle and patriarchs of the Kong family. DK's mentor is his grandfather, Cranky Kong, the Donkey Kong who fought Mario in the original Donkey Kong arcade game. DK's attacks are also usually slaps and punches, though he packs a lot more power than the Mario Bros. None of his moves seem particularly referential to me, so I won't really focus on them. His black and blue costumes don't really have much influence from the series, at least from what I can tell. The red costume looks similar to the colors used for the ape in the original Donkey Kong game, and the green color could either be a reference to his sprite from the Donkey Kong Land trilogy, or else maybe his nemesis, King K. Rool. That said, none of these sources are given on the website, so they could just be red and green. The stage from this series is Congo Jungle. The name comes from the first world of the original Donkey Kong Country, and is likely meant to occur there. It also features a barrel cannon below the stage, as a last chance survival tactic for those heading for doom. There are no items in the game that explicitly come from the Donkey Kong series. However, I would be remiss to not mention the item-filled barrels that spawn throughout the game. These obviously take influence from the Donkey Kong series, and they are mentioned in conjunction with DK's Sea barrels on the Smash 64 website. DK is also the only character in the game strong enough to walk while carrying one, since he does so constantly in his home series. The Legend of Zelda, being the clear number 2 first-party series for Nintendo, was obviously going to show up in a game like this. And who else would serve as a better fighter than the series' main character, Link? The name Link actually refers to a number of characters in the Zelda series, each of which is born with the spirit of the hero. This particular Link is the one from Ocarina of Time. He's a boy who was raised by the childlike forest spirits known as the Kokiri, left with them after his mother was killed during a brutal war. Eventually, after his father figure, the Great Deku Tree, was cursed by Demise's reincarnation Ganondorf, Link left the forest to bring Ganondorf to justice. Link is the first of many sword users in Smash history, and most of his moves are based on this. However, he does have a few of his traditional items, in the form of the hookshot, boomerang, and bombs. It's worth noting that Link is based on his adult form, which is actually incapable of using the boomerangs in Ocarina of Time. This is probably because Ocarina of Time released only a month before Smash 64, so Sakurai and his team were probably using earlier design documents for him. The boomerang uses It's a Link to the Past design, likely for similar reasons. Link has 3 alternate costumes. 2 are directly from Ocarina of Time, being the Goron and Zora tunics that protect you from fire and drowning respectively. The purple tunic comes from an interesting place. According to the website, this is actually meant to be the outfit that Link wears when wielding the blue ring in the original Legend of Zelda game. I guess its color doesn't quite match the blue of later tunics that reference back to it. The stage from the series is Hyrule Castle, once again looking similar to its appearance in Ocarina of Time. Death Mountain can be seen in the background, also reflecting its appearance in that game. The tornado here is a bit of a mystery, as there weren't really any tornadoes in Ocarina of Time. Smash Wiki suggests that it may be based on the tornado summoned by the recorder in Zelda 1, but I find it more likely to be Ferori's Wind, a spell from Ocarina of Time. Fun fact time, Maxim tomatoes do not actually appear in the Smash 64 version of Hyrule Castle. This is so the only healing item on the stage is the heart container, the only item sourced from the Zelda series, where they're used to increase Link's maximum health by 1 heart. Here, it will fully recover your health. And going straight from fantasy to sci-fi, it's time to dip into the Metroid series. Our hero is Samus Aran. When she was a child, Samus's family was killed during a raid by space pirates, led by the brutal Ridley, known as the cunning god of death. She was adopted by the Chozo, a race of avian aliens who raised her to become the ultimate warrior. The power armor she wears is an ancient artifact, left in the temple of the Chozo war god for the one who would prove themselves worthy of its power. By this point in her timeline, Samus has vanquished both the Metroids of SR-388 and the space pirates of Zebes, though the consequences of the Metroid's extinction had not yet been made clear to her. While most of her attacks are either regular martial arts or blasts of energy from the cannon on her arm, much like Link, Samus has access to a couple of her items from her home series, specifically the grapple beam, the bombs, the screw attack, and the charge shot. The color scheme of her armor in its base form shows that she's currently wearing the Varia suit, an upgrade to Samus' armor that protects her from intense heat. Her other costumes reflect different suits that Samus can wear throughout the series. The pink costume looks similar to the sprite work of the Growdy suit from Super Metroid, while her purple costume resembles the same suit's actual artwork and appearance in later games. The black suit doesn't seem to reference anything in particular, at least to my knowledge. The green suit, however, is interesting. The Smash website listed as the mass-produced Samus, which doesn't make much sense in the context of the Metroid series to this point. However, Smash Wiki suggests that this is actually a reference to the Mobile Suit Gundam MS-06 Zaku 2, which certainly could be the case. I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about Gundam, so I'm just gonna kind of throw this out to you guys and see what you think. Samus' home stage is Planet Zebes. This stage takes place deep in the caverns below Zebes' crust. The acid that rises and falls is in reference to Brinstar, the opening area of the game, but the strange bubbly platforms actually come from Norfair. However, Norfair is full of lava, not acid, so this stage doesn't match up with either location. Some enemies from Super Metroid can also be seen flying around the background, including Wavers and the intimidating Ridley. Once again, like Donkey Kong, Yoshi is treated as a separate series in Smash Bros., despite the green dinosaur being a recurring character in just about every Mario sports and party game known to man. However, Yoshi is an interesting character because he isn't just one character. Yoshis are an entire race of sapient dinosaurs who live on Yoshi's Island. Yoshis come in a number of different colors, which form the multiple Yoshi costumes available in the game. As I mentioned in my Mario Party video, the exact identity of Mario's Yoshi friend has changed some over time. In this game, Yoshi is described as being the Yoshi from Yoshi's Island, a game in which you change which Yoshi you're playing as in every level. This implies not only that this Yoshi has been an adult for over 25 years, but that one particular Yoshi from that era bonded with Mario and Luigi enough to form a friendship in the modern day. This is technically possible, but something about that explanation feels off to me for the main universe. However, given that this Yoshi is an approximation of the Mario character, that could be an entirely plausible solution here. His home stage is called Yoshi's Island, but it's more based on the game Yoshi's story. This includes the cardboard aesthetic featured so heavily in the game. In Smash Ultimate, the stage will be renamed to Super Happy Tree, after the MacGuffin from that game, which can be seen in the background of the stage. Now we get to the one you've all been waiting for. Kirby, the firstborn son of game director Masahiro Sakurai. This genderless orb of consumption is the hero of Dreamland. They aren't known for their critical thinking skills, but they make up for it with adaptability, perseverance, and an immunity to eldritch horror. Kirby's main skill is their ability to use copy abilities, powers taken from swallowed enemies. Their moveset uses a number of these copy abilities, including Hammer, Stone, Cutter, Fighter, Ninja, and Backdrop. Most notably for Smash Bros. Though, Kirby has the ability to suck up and swallow any of the other fighters and copy their special moves. All of these alternate copy abilities also come with neat hats. Kirby's yellow costume is a reference to Kibi, the inexplicable Kirby lookalike who serves as the player 2 in Kirby's Dream Course. The blue and red costumes are based on Kirby's ice and fire abilities respectively. The green Kirby is referred to on the website as Kusamochi Kirby, meaning that its color is based on a type of mochi flavored with Yomogi mochi. Though, interestingly, a green Kirby would eventually be introduced in Nightmare in Dreamland. The Kirby stage is named Dreamland, after the country that Kirby lives in, but more specifically, it appears to be based on Green Greens, the first level of Kirby's Dreamland. It even features the world's boss, Wispy Woods. Due to the fact that both series were created by Sakurai, the gameplay of Super Smash Bros. Has a lot of similarities to Kirby. This includes both the normal special moves combat system, which is originally pioneered in Kirby Superstar, and the mechanics of platforming itself, which also greatly resemble the gameplay of Kirby. Naturally then, a number of items would also be shared between both series. The Maxim Tomato is a healing food item that, in the Kirby series, completely heals up the one who consumes it. In Smash Bros., it doesn't heal you fully, but does decrease your damage by 100%. The Star Rod is an important item in Dreamland, made available in Kirby's Adventure and its remake, Nightmare in Dreamland, in Kirby's battle against Nightmare. Its appearance in Smash Bros. Is loyal to that appearance, firing projectile stars at opponents. The final item I'm going to mention here isn't directly from the Kirby series, but is inspired by it. The fan. This fan is called a harisen, a type of fan found in Japanese comedy, where it's used by the straight man to slap the funny man. It's used similarly in Smash Bros. As a battering item to slap opponents with. It was probably included for a comedic effect. While Kirby doesn't often use a harisen, a comment on the Smash Bros. Website suggests that its color scheme was taken from Samurai Kirby, a subgame in Kirby Superstar, where Kirby uses one as a weapon to defeat Waddle Dee. One Nintendo franchise that is unfortunately overlooked in the modern day is Star Fox. Our main character is Fox McCloud, the confident yet untested new leader of the Star Fox mercenary team, taking over after the untimely death of his father. Fox's blaster somewhat comes from Star Fox 64's multiplayer, where he can use a large gun, though the pistol in Smash Bros. Seems to be a lot smaller than that one. While hexagonal shields like this don't explicitly appear in Star Fox, there are plenty of force fields that could act similarly. His recovery move, Firefox, likely finds its origins in the Kitsune. Fox is based on the Kitsune statues at Fushimi and Nari Taisha Temple in Kyoto. Kitsune in myth are supposedly able to create a type of ghost light called Kitsunebi, or Foxfire. This is likely also why Ninetales and Pokémon are fire types. Fox's costumes don't have any sources listed on their website, but Smash Wiki suggests that the green outfit may be based on this piece of concept art. The coloration of Slippy's costume in this art also looks somewhat similar to the orange costume. I don't know where the purple outfit comes from though. His stage, Sector Z, is a map for both the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64. It is a strange nebula in the shape of the letter Z that is home to a veritable graveyard of spaceships, from some long ago battle with space pirates. Emperor Andros used this massive space junk to prepare an ambush on the Star Fox team. The entire mission is based around protecting the now defenseless Great Fox from the oncoming attackers. It only makes sense then that this stage would take place on top of the Great Fox itself, during this battle, with missiles and space junk flying through the background, while R-Wing fighters attack the interlopers fighting on top of the ship. The Pokémon series shouldn't be new to any of you, given that it's the highest grossing media franchise in the world. And neither should the series' first fighter, Pikachu. Numbered as the 25th Pokémon in the National Pokédex, this electric mouse Pokémon is likely here because it's the first partner Pokémon of anime protagonist Ash Ketchum, though in-universe it's more likely to be based on the starter Pikachu from Yellow version. Given that this game released before Generation 2 introduced Pokémon genders, and before Generation 4 gave us gender differences, we can't really tell whether this Pikachu is meant to be male or female, though most later games have the default Pikachu as being male. Pikachu, being a Pokémon, has his moveset made up of mostly actual Pokémon moves. So if you want a Pikachu who only uses the Smash rule set, then I'd suggest a build with Headbutt, Shockwave, Quick Attack, and Thunder. Those are the only moves that have Japanese names directly lining up with Pokémon moves, but I can also see arguments for moves like Tail Whip or Double Kick. When it comes to Pikachu's costumes, the alternate colors for the red and green teams, according to Smash Wiki, line up with the alternate colors available for named Pikachus in Pokémon Stadium. The shade of yellow used for blue Pikachu doesn't have such an analog, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what's up with the party hats. There's also an unlockable fighter for the Pokémon series, and that is Jigglypuff, the balloon Pokémon. These Pokémon are known for their usage of the move Sing to put their opponents to sleep. Jigglypuff's moves include Rolling Kick, Headbutt, Pound, Sing, and Rest. Much like Pikachu's costumes, the only parts of Jigglypuff's alternate sets to be referential are the shades of pink for the blue and green Jigglypuff colors. Though at least the idea of a cute Pokemon like Jigglypuff wearing a bow makes more sense than Party Rock Pikachu over there. The Pokemon stage is Saffron City. This is a city in the Kanto region nicknamed the Shining Land of Golden Commerce. It is home to both the Ghost-type Master Sabrina and the tech company Silphco, who manufactures Pokeballs. While Saffron City in the games only has one tall building, the massive number of skyscrapers here helps it better reflect the city's real-world inspiration, Tokyo. The main bout of the battle takes place on top of the Silphco building, where different Pokemon can pop out and attack the fighter, including Porygon, a Pokemon originally manufactured by Silphco scientists. There are 2 items related to the Pokemon series in the game. Or more like 1.5, I guess? The Pokeball is the most obvious one. When thrown, this item summons a random Pokemon to do battle against the fighter who threw it for a short period of time. This can rarely include the mythical Pokemon Mew. And the other item is this egg. Or, as it's known in Japanese, the Lucky Egg. This could have 3 different meanings, and I'm not sure which is the most accurate. To explain the item, it works similarly to the barrels or crates, creating an item when destroyed. However, it also has a chance to explode, meaning that it's really up to chance if using it is a good idea. Hence one possible description for Lucky Egg. You should only approach it when you're feeling lucky. Alternatively, this could be a reference to the held item of the same name, which can increase the held Pokemon's experience gain. I find this to be the least likely explanation, since the Lucky Egg wasn't introduced until Generation 2, which released a couple of months after this game. But I may as well list it. The third option is that the name is supposedly translated as Chansey's Egg. Chansey's Japanese name is actually Lucky, and Chanseys spawn egg items when they're summoned by a Pokeball or the Saffron City stage. So this could be saying that the egg item was actually laid by a Chansey. I'm not sure which of the possible explanations makes the most sense, so I'd like to hear your opinions on the subject. Now we get into the series that has only unlockable characters in the game, starting with EarthBound. This is a game where a bunch of preteens fight a time-traveling alien conqueror with psychic powers. And the head of the group is, of course, Ness. This young boy from the town of Onett was sent on a quest to protect the planet by becoming one with himself and the world, awakening a connection between Ness and Mother Earth itself. Ness's main abilities center around his Psi, or psychic powers. Ness mostly focuses on attacking moves, including PK Fire, PK Freeze, and Psi Magnet. And when all else fails, he sells a baseball bat and a yo-yo so he can defend himself just fine. Ness's costumes don't have much meaning to them, except for his second player yellow costume. According to the Smash Bros. Website, this Ness's color scheme was made to look similar to the uniforms of the Hanshin Tigers, a Japanese baseball team based in the city of Nishinomiya. Given his baseball bat, this really seems like a logical costume choice, even if it's a little unclear for us in the West. Now, despite what you may be thinking, the Home Run Bat is not from the Mother series. I don't blame you if you think that. Even the website lampshades the fact that people would assume it, though it does specify that no item called the Home Run Bat has ever appeared in the Mother series, so it's just kinda here. And now finally we get to my personal main, Captain Douglas Falcon. He's a bounty hunter and professional racer who is more than proficient in both aspects of his life. Despite his celebrity status though, Falcon is actually a very private person, and very little is known about who he is. He spends most of his free time sequestered away on his private island, training. While we technically saw Falcon out of his racing machine in the original F-Zero's prequel comic, this is the first time he's done so in-game. So Falcon's moves are almost entirely original creations. That said, they clearly based him on Japanese superheroes, with moves whose names he loudly shouts as he uses them, similar to, say, All Might from My Hero Academia, or really any character from a Sentai show. Falcon's first alternate costume is based on this live-action commercial for F-Zero X, which looks really cool, and more people should know about. His second red costume is based on Blood Falcon, his clone, also from F-Zero X. The other costumes don't have listed sources on the website, but this white and pink costume looks a lot like the outfit of fellow racer Jodie Summers, who in one continuity is actually Falcon's younger sister. Though that's a spoiler and had not yet been considered in 1999. The blue color matches his appearance in F-Zero X, which contrasts with his base costume, which seems to be more based on his Super Nintendo appearance. And then his green costume looks terrible, and I have no idea why they designed it. Okay, that took a while, but we made it through every fighter in the game. These videos are going to be a real pain when we get to the later games, aren't they? From there, we can get into content that's not explicitly from any of the fighter series. So let's go through the remaining items. This bumper has the Smash logo on it and bounces fighters back. It's strange that it appears as a stage element in the Mario stage, but it clearly feels out of place in the Mario universe. Okay, now the capsule is an interesting one. It acts similarly to the Lucky Egg, except it's a red and white capsule. Wait, that sounds really familiar. Are capsules based on Pokeballs? I mean, Capsule Monsters was the original name of the series before Game Freak had to change it to Pocket Monsters, so this could possibly be a reference to that. The crate is just a big box with stuff in it. It's like the barrel, but with corners. I don't have much to say about it. The ray gun is, well, a gun that fires lasers. It's a trope in sci-fi series that I guess Smash just wanted to include. Now the real most interesting item from this list is actually the motion sensor bomb. And it's based on a game series, but not one that includes any fighters, or one that you even expect to see in Smash Bros. At all. Yeah, the Japanese website for Smash 64 specifies that the motion sensor bomb came from GoldenEye 007, an extremely popular and successful James Bond game on the Nintendo 64. Even more crazy, this is not the only game to reference GoldenEye, as the connection is implied in the English version of Melee by listing the origin of the motion sensor bomb as top secret. This isn't true in the Japanese version of Melee though, as there the item is instead from Perfect Dark, another game from the same developers. Now, I'm not going to do the deepest lore of James Bond on this channel, but something about this still makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Now to finish this off, let's talk about the only part of this game that has any form of possible story, the adventure mode. This takes on the traditional fighting game story, where you, as the player, face off against all the other playable characters, then work your way towards the person who runs the tournament. In each battle, the fighters are fought on their home stage. The first match is against Link. Nothing too special here. The second match, though, is against a team of 18 Yoshis. I think that a Yoshi team is used here to reference the structure of Yoshi's Island, with a number of Yoshis working as a team to cart Baby Mario across the island, similar to how they work together in this game to try and take you down. This is also the only way you can see the pink and dark blue Yoshi colors in the game. Battle 3 is a face-off against Fox McCloud in Sector Z. There isn't really anything to say here, but I will mention that I probably had more problems with this fight than any of the others. After this, we get to our first training mode, Break the Targets. The goal here is to just hit every target on the map, and there's a different map for every fighter. The fourth fight is a double battle, with you and a randomly selected other fighter facing off against Mario and Luigi. Interestingly, Luigi is the only unlockable character to appear as an opponent in the 1P game, but it makes sense that the brothers would stick together. Stage 5 is against Pikachu in Saffron City and is often incredibly easy. Stage 6 has 3 fighters facing off against a giant Donkey Kong. I feel like this is a reference to the original Donkey Kong arcade game, where DK was just absolutely humongous. More similar in size to his inspiration, King Kong, than to Cranky. Then we hit bonus stage 2, Board the Platforms, which is break the targets, except that you're standing on platforms. Okay, it sounds a lot lamer than it is. Stage 7 sets you against a team of 8 Kirbys. Each Kirby is a different copy ability active, and represents one of the 8 starting fighters in the game, though other fighter copy abilities can appear here after you've unlocked them. And the last regular fight is against Samus in Planet Zebes. But even with all 8 fighters done, we still hadn't reached the end. The next battle takes place on a stage you only see here, Meta Crystal. This map looks somewhat similar to the Cave of the Metal Cap in Super Mario 64, which is only compounded by your opponent being Metal Mario. The last bonus stage hits here, with Race to the Finish, which is by far the easiest of the three, and does not change based on your fighter. However, it is here that we're also introduced to the enemies of the next stage, the Fighting Polygon Team. Well, that's their English name at least. In Japanese, they're called the Mysterious Small Fry Enemy Corps, and are meant to be weaker copies of the different fighters. I interpret them as initial failed attempts to create what would eventually become the fighters. They're not only weaker, but look incomplete, being very rough polygonal models without any real texture. The fighting polygons would go on to become inspirations for the fighting wireframes in Melee, the fighting alloys in Brawl, and eventually the fighting Mii team in Smash 4 and Ultimate. All the teams until the Miis look unfinished, very similar to the fighting polygons. And despite their team names changing in English, the name is always consistent in Japanese. Based on this, it seems likely that these teams are evolving alongside the fighters, making the Miis their final form. Also, despite the similarities, this stage is not an early version of the battlefield. Instead, it's referred to as the Duel Zone, and will never appear again. Finally, we get to Master Hand, the mysterious narrator of this tournament. And here, the rules are entirely different. While you still have the normal percentage-based Smash meter, Master Hand instead has health, and is the only opponent in the game to do so. The stage is this weird, alien-looking platform with a trippy background. Its name is a good translation of the Japanese word shuten, simply meaning endpoint. This is the end of the road, the place you've been fighting to reach. I don't know why your creator, your god, wishes to do battle with you, but you don't have much choice, as it's the only way to win. And eventually, you do. Master Hand falls to the ground, his body exploding, though he likely isn't dead, just defeated. Exactly what Master Hand is, we still don't know for sure. I like to think that he's the hand of the creators, of Sakurai himself. Master of our world, creator of the fighters, and someone who wants to test our mettle for himself. And that's all I have to say about Smash 64. But now that we're here, where does this leave the channel in the future? First things first, we have some new series that we're going to cover. The most notable one will of course be Fire Emblem, which I'm actually very excited to get back into. I have not regularly made Fire Emblem content since I left Phaeology 3 years ago, and I've been chomping at the bit to get back into it. Outside of that, we're also adding Ice Climbers and the Game & Watch games. There will be fewer videos to cover there, but I will be getting into them quite soon. At the same time, I also need to cover games released between January of 1999 and November of 2001 in series that I'm already covering. This includes major milestones like the Pokémon Johto games, Majora's Mask, and the introduction of our Lord and Savior, Waluigi Jesus. But the important thing is, I'm back! My wedding went through, I'm wearing this little band to prove it, and we're just gonna keep moving forward. So, thank you all for being here, for watching this really long video, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.